Have you ever wished to become someone truly uncheckable? Someone who remains unaffected by criticism, rejection, loss, or betrayal? Have you ever longed for the day when the silent pain, the internal anguish that gnaws at you even while you pretend everything is fine, finally stops? Maybe you're exhausted from constantly trying to please others, from upholding an image of constant strength when deep down, all you crave is a moment of rest from the burden of being untouchable. But let me share something with you that few dare to say. As long as you keep running from pain, it will continue to rule over you. As long as you numb yourself to hide and protect your heart, you will remain trapped at the mercy of harsh words, disappointing actions, and the deafening silence that eats away at you from the inside. This is not weakness. This is the human experience. The only difference is some have become better at masking it than others. Carl Jung, one of the pioneers of depth psychology, taught that we are not defined by what happens to us, but by what we choose to become. And that's the heart of it. True resilience isn't about shutting out the world. It's not about becoming cold, detached, or untouchable. It's about integration, about facing and embracing what still haunts you in the darkness. Because real strength isn't the absence of pain, it's full awareness of who you are, even when you are wounded. If you're still here, it's not by accident. This video is for you, someone tired of getting hurt over and over, feeling emotionally powerless as if others hold some mysterious sway over you. I want to show you that it doesn't have to stay this way. But to break free, you'll need to confront some truths that may sting. And maybe, for the first time, this pain will be the beginning of your liberation. Let's begin. You think what hurts you comes from outside, the words, the betrayals, the abandonment, the criticisms. But the harsh truth is, none of that truly has the power to hurt you, unless there's already an open wound inside. What causes your suffering is not what others do, but what those actions awaken within you. It's the story you've been telling yourself. It's the old scars that were never healed. It's the emptiness you've been masking with strength, pride, and the desperate need to appear okay. Jung teaches that the pain we feel in response to the outer world is just a mirror of the parts within us that remain fragmented and unhealed. That's why some people survive catastrophic events with clarity, while others break under a single harsh word. It's not about what happens, it's about where it strikes inside you. Now, here's a hard truth: you are still hurting because, deep down, you believe you can control how others treat you. You are still striving to be good enough, smart enough, strong enough, kind enough, believing it will protect you from being hurt. But control is a fantasy. And as long as you cling to it, you live in endless tension, trying to predict the unpredictable, to avoid the unavoidable. Do you truly want to stop suffering? Then stop shielding yourself from pain. What you need isn't more control, it's deeper awareness. As long as you expect others to change so you can feel better, you remain shackled to their actions. Freedom begins when you realize that nothing outside can hurt you, unless it finds something broken within you. And this is where the real battlefield lies, the unconscious. What you cannot see, cannot understand, and cannot master controls you. And that's exactly what we'll uncover in the next part. Get ready to dive deeper because that's where real transformation begins. If this message resonates with you, hit the subscribe button and join the channel. Thank you for being here. The greatest lie you were ever told is that you are in control of your life. Wake up, because you're not. At least not while you continue living on autopilot, reacting without knowing why, feeling emotions without knowing where they come from, making decisions only to sabotage yourself later. Carl Jung explained this perfectly when he said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that's exactly what's happening to you right now. The pain you carry, the sudden bursts of anger, the sadness that appears without warning, none of it is random. These are signals from parts of yourself that you've forgotten, ignored, or pushed away. Jung called this hidden space the unconscious. It's not just a fog of random thoughts, it's a living system filled with memories, old wounds, hidden desires, and fears you don't want to face. But even if you don't face them, they still control how you feel and act. You wonder why certain words hurt you deeply, while others around you stay unaffected. It's because those words hit sensitive areas inside you that are still raw. And if they still hurt, it's because you've never truly healed them, you've only hidden them under the psychological carpet. And now you keep stumbling over them. Jung said, "We cannot change anything until we accept it." Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. And what have you been doing? Judging yourself, suppressing your feelings, forcing silence on your emotions, hoping it would fix everything. But ignoring your unconscious doesn't make it vanish. It only forces it to find more dangerous ways to surface in toxic relationships you keep repeating, in self-sabotage you can't escape, in anxiety and fear that rise just when life seems good. This isn't bad luck. This is your unconscious shouting at you to wake up. But you keep choosing to sleep? You want to stop getting hurt? Then stop running from what's inside you. Because until you know you're unconscious, you will be controlled by your emotions. And the more you try to protect yourself from outside pain, the more vulnerable you become to the pain inside. But there is a way out. And it's not about building stronger defenses, it's about becoming whole. Becoming untouchable doesn't come from resistance, it comes from deep understanding. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. What does it really mean to be uncheckable? And why does real strength come not from armor, but from true acceptance? Let's keep going. Most people think the only way to stop getting hurt is to shut down. They build emotional walls, put on masks, develop tough exteriors, and pretend nothing touches them. They say things like, "I don't care anymore," or "nothing gets to me." But inside, they are still bleeding, still suffering. Because the real problem was never about feeling, the problem was not knowing what you're feeling or why. And that confusion only happens to those who don't truly know themselves. Jung was crystal clear when he said, "Know all the theories, master all the techniques, but when you touch a human soul, be just another human soul." And that human soul, the one you hide behind a strong, invincible mask, it's begging to be seen. Real emotional strength isn't about being cold. It's not about ignoring pain, avoiding conflict, or pretending nothing matters. It's about bringing everything hidden into the light. It's about accepting your emotions, your fears, your weaknesses, all the parts you've tried to bury. You don't become untouchable by putting a wall between yourself and the world. You become untouchable when you realize nothing outside you can harm what you have already accepted inside. When you face your shadows, your fears, your insecurities, they stop controlling you. You no longer react blindly. You observe, you choose. You are no longer a puppet of your emotions. And that is real freedom. You can call this process individuation, becoming your true self. Not what others expect you to be, not the version of yourself you created to survive, but the real, complete you, born from the meeting of your light and your darkness, your conscious and your unconscious. Individuation is not about perfection. It's about integration. You don't need to become a better person. You just need to become whole. And here's the truth nobody told you. The more you run from pain, the faster it chases you. The harder you try to be unaffected, the more fragile you become. When you finally face your wounds, when you accept every part of yourself, the good and the bad, the noble and the shameful, the outside world loses its power to break you. But walking this path takes real courage. Courage to look inside yourself, courage to drop your masks, courage to truly feel. because it is exactly within pain that the door to real transformation is hidden. And that's what we'll uncover next: how suffering, instead of being your enemy, can actually become the gateway to your true strength. Let's dive deeper, this time without fear. From a young age, you were taught to hate pain. You were told that suffering means weakness, that crying is useless, that feeling too much would only hurt you. So you started running. You avoided pain, denied it, pretended it wasn't there. But the more you ran, the faster it caught up. And worse, it changed its form. It became anxiety, anger, apathy, boredom, or self-destructive behaviors that you couldn't even explain. Pain that is ignored doesn't vanish. It just burrows deeper inside you, digging tunnels, waiting. Until one day, without any warning, everything falls apart. Jung saw suffering differently. He believed pain was the soul's messenger, the voice of the unconscious, the language of your true self trying to get your attention. He once said, "Depression is like a woman dressed in black. If she appears, don't push her away. Invite her in, offer her a seat, and listen to what she has to say." But you don't listen. You silence yourself. You distract yourself. You stay busy. You numb the pain. You do everything you can to avoid looking at what really matters. But what is your pain trying to tell you? The truth is, suffering only hurts this much because you're still fighting yourself. There's a part of you that wants to grow and another part that clings to the way things are. There's something inside you begging for transformation, but your ego, used to being in control, tries to crush that voice. And it's in that internal struggle that pain is born. Because real change hurts. Growth hurts. Letting go of old beliefs, cutting toxic ties, letting dead parts of your life fall away, all of that feels like mourning. It's a painful inner death and rebirth. But it's exactly in that brokenness where new life can begin. When everything you thought you were falls apart, when the pain strips you down to your core, you finally see who you truly are. Not the version you perform for the world. Not the persona you crafted to feel safe. Just you, raw, real, and free. At that moment, suffering becomes sacred, because it brings you face to face with the only thing that can ever set you free, yourself. Jung understood this. He knew that suffering isn't a mistake or a sign that something's wrong. It's part of the process. Pain isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of the real one, the journey toward individuation. The real tragedy is that most people give up before crossing this dark valley. They retreat. They distract themselves. They climb back to the surface. But not you. If you're still here, it's because you're ready to cross. And in the next part, we'll explore exactly how that crossing happens, how the path of individuation, even though it's harsh and lonely at times, is the very road that leads to freedom. Let's keep going. We're getting deeper now. Few people dare to start the journey of individuation. Even fewer complete it. Because this path offers no comfort, no guarantees, no ego protection. It shatters the ego. Jung described individuation as the process of becoming who you truly are. But to do that, you must first unlearn everything you think you are, and that hurts more than any rejection from others. You start to realize that much of what you believed defined you. Your achievements, your wounds, the image you built to be loved, respected, admired, was just survival. It wasn't real living. Individuation is life's call to move beyond survival. It's the unconscious pushing everything repressed, hidden, and twisted up to the surface, forcing you to face it. It demands the destruction of the persona, the social mask you wear. Jung said, the persona is just a mask of collective convenience. In other words, you'll need to rip off that mask. To truly uncover what's hidden beneath your surface, you must peel back your own layers. It's through this journey that you start becoming truly untouchable, not because nothing impacts you anymore, but because you've already walked through the fire. You faced your deepest fears, stared straight into your shame, your desperation, your anger, and said, "I see you, and you no longer control me." This deep self-awareness, this calm understanding of your own darkness, gives you a strength that doesn't rely on approval, recognition, or control. You no longer crave everyone's love. You no longer feel the need to win every argument. You no longer have to seem strong because you truly know yourself, and that can't be taken away. Real emotional strength isn't a shell, it's a solid core. It's the merging of all your inner pieces into a steady center of consciousness that stays firm through any storm. Yes, you'll still feel pain, but it won't break you. You may be hurt, but you won't lose yourself because you've stopped reacting blindly and started living fully. You've moved away from shallow living and started inhabiting your inner depths. Yet, reaching this depth comes at a cost: loneliness. Not because you'll be abandoned, but because few are ready to walk this road with you. Most people are stuck on the surface, hiding behind masks, afraid to feel. As you free yourself, you naturally grow apart, but this isn't pride, it's growth. You don't step away out of arrogance, you step away because you no longer fit into the places where you once hid. And that brings us to the final key of this journey: consciousness as your shield. Because real protection doesn't come from force, it comes from clarity. That's what we'll explore in this last part. Consciousness is the true armor, the state where absolutely nothing holds power over you. Let's finish this journey together. We're almost there. Now that you've come this far, there's something you need to hear clearly. Nothing, absolutely nothing, can protect you from external suffering if you stay disconnected from your inner world. Words will still cut, rejections will still hurt, losses will still weigh you down, until you wake up. Awakening isn't some magical moment. It's a choice you make every single day. It's choosing to look within, even when it's painful. It's taking full responsibility for your feelings, no more blaming others, the past, or fate. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists. What you accept transforms." You've spent your life resisting the fear of not being enough, the ache of rejection, the sting of loneliness, the pain of feeling invisible. And what did you do? You hid. You silenced yourself. You tried to control everything. You chased perfection. You wore strength as a mask. And all that resistance led you here, exhausted, worn down from fighting against the world and yourself. But now you know true emotional strength isn't about being hard, it's about being clear. It's not about building walls, it's about growing awareness. Because once you see your wounds, your patterns, your triggers, the power of others to hurt you fades. You still feel, but you don't drown. You still suffer, but you don't lose yourself. And that changes everything. Your real protection doesn't come from avoiding life. It comes from diving deep into it. Those who stay at the surface get tossed around by every little wave. Those who dive deep find stillness, stability, and true power. And that's where you're going. When you start living from a place of integration, presence, and acceptance, life can try to knock you down, but it won't find anything to break. If this video resonated with you, if something inside you woke up, comment below. I choose awareness. Let's create a movement of people who stop pretending to be strong and start living with real truth. And don't forget, the next video is part of this journey too, and it's crucial. Keep moving forward. Real transformation only begins when you don't stop at the first step. See you there.